Dr. Goldsmith. He didn't give us a bio, so he's just a veterinarian from Minnesota. Just like we introduced Pat as a veterinarian from... What is the mouse?
Where's the cursor?
I was looking for it. Go.
My computer hides.
All right, Tim, the floor is yours.
Okay, I don't know what I did wrong, but it didn't come up. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Jared. So I get the joy of talking about the VFD. So you guys do not have anything in your proceedings, so don't bother looking. Partially by design, partially because I didn't know exactly what to put in this, and I was changing it this morning. We thought it would be good to have some discussion on the VFD here, as this is new as of the first of the year, as we come through it. So I was tasked with that. So what I've done is put together some common challenges and kind of my summary of where things are at. If the VFD is new to you at this point, you either are not going to deal with it, or you need to talk to me afterwards, because there's a lot more to go on around that. So I've tried to put it together from both my perspective as a veterinarian. So I've spent quite a bit of time trying to understand it, one, from the perspective of making sure our veterinary students understand it when they leave here, and two, in my time where I'm not here at the university, I do play a real veterinarian and producer at home. So I've had to figure this out for myself. I do actively write VFDs for cattle, hogs, and sheep on my own operation doing that. And if you guys think you get gruff responses from your clients, try those clients being family, right? Anybody who's done that, they don't pull any punches on their joy with this. And I also get to experience from the producer side, right? Because I have to understand how to make that work on a daily basis on the production side. That being said, I don't work for FDA either. And so I contacted FDA and just asked them, what do you want to communicate to people where we're at today with this? So they did send me some of their common things that they would like visited to talk about that. So that's my approach. And oh, by the way, I got 15 minutes to do it as we come through there. So I'll try to stay in that timeline. So the little bit of review I'll put in here. Guidance for Industry 213 is the main guidance related to what we call the VFD regulations that came into play starting the first of the year this year. It's one of three packages. The actual VFD rules for the paperwork that come with it came in earlier than that, and the 209 prior to that as they come through. But as we look at that coming to reality and the products out there, this is data or numbers from FDA. Everything I put up here is a lot of the data is going to be directly from the FDA website. That they have a lot of information on there. But of the 292 animal drug applications initially affected by Guidance for Industry 213, there were 84 completely withdrawn from the market. And of the remaining applications, 93 of them were oral dosage products that are going to transition from over-the-counter to prescription. 115 products intended for use in feed are going to go from over-the-counter to VFD. If I stop right there, that is still one of the main things, if anybody trolls ABPL, the confusion between prescription and VFD. If it goes in the water and it has on the label a soluble product, that is prescription. If it has medicated feed article, and it's medically important, that will be VFD, and it will also have the VFD statement on the label of that product to do that. Also within the changeover, there's 31 applications that included production claims solely, and those indications are removed from those products because production claims are no longer part of these products to do that. So here's just, if you're wondering what those products are, if you just Google FDA VFD, it'll take you to their page, and you can. This is just pulled from that page. It lists through the products that in this case would be transitioning to prescription status, similar to VFD status. And if you look at it, if you read the fine print, recognize that there are products on here that do have labels that are approved, but they're not necessarily manufactured, right? So as I go back to, as I tried to learn this process and what we're going to do. I spent part of December visiting with my distributors that I'll be dealing with on farm at home, right, or that I would be dealing with in practice. And it was a very valuable experience for those of you, if you're doing this and you haven't sat down with the distributors your clients to be working with, get in the office and sit down with them. One, you need to be aware of what products they are or are not going to carry, because not everybody is going to carry everything, and what's commonly there and what they're going to do and how they're going to do that. It was educational for me, and I guarantee it was educational for them. They probably thought, oh crap. Because I challenged them on many things that they said they're going to do that they didn't know what they're talking about. So it's been a learning experience for everybody involved in this, in my opinion. And if we can be a resource as veterinarians to those distributors, it helps our clients at the same time to come through that. So some common challenges, I'll go through some of these, and I'm going to use this one here. I've had this conversation with veterinarians and other people several times. I can't count how many times, but my distributor or feed manufacturer wants a total pounds of feed listed on the VFD. So I'll use this as an example because I think it brings up a lot of key things as we do it. So if you go on, the FDA site, you can go through and they're going to give you some really good summary documents that go through distributor, veterinarian, and producer responsibilities, right, as you do it. So if I look at the distributor responsibilities, in my opinion, this one here causes a lot of angst for our distributors. They have the responsibility to only fill a VFD order if the VFD contains all the required information, right? This is, in my opinion, some of the reasons there are distributors that have decided they will only accept electronic VFDs through Global Vet Link, because by using Global Vet Link or an electronic process, it only allows a complete VFD to be produced, right? I've also talked to distributors that have received VFD orders written on a napkin that include the drug name and their signature, right? And they're not going to fill those, right? So it's our responsibility as veterans to help do that. But as they do that, they're in a little angst, because part of this, again, in my opinion, in my experience, part of the learning process of this VFD is there was a lot of stuff going on with feed grade antimicrobials, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it. I wasn't aware that was going on. That is technically inappropriate drug use, right? From the type of product it was in, to who it was to be given to the doses that it was given to, and the labels on those products don't fit the regulations, right? And they were illegal then, just like they are today, right? Underneath the eyes of FDA to do that, right? So this has created a new mechanism to do that, or to evaluate that as we come through, and some of it's there. So this gets into a lawful VFD has to be complete, right? And you can get those from some of the manufacturers that provided those, and you as a veterinarian can create your own. You can go on ABP, and if you're an ABP member, they have a generic ABP VFD form there. Kansas State has one available. I've created my own. There's a lot of them out there. Some of the really useful ones are the ones by the drug sponsors, to be honest with you. Zoetis, I don't work for Zoetis. But they have taken, in my opinion, taken a really good, their produced VFD forms are some of the most easily accessible and useful forms that are out there. Elanco also has them available. They're not as easily accessed, and most of them, they're more swine focused than the cattle side, but they're there as well. But they're very useful to look at. If you're on Global Vet Link, they're very useful you can play around with the different drugs and get the label indications off there without producing a VFD and being charged the fee for producing a VFD, right? They don't charge you until you hit that sign button, right? So you can do that, and there are things that you can look at to do that. But a lawful VFD has to be complete, and in my opinion, reading this, the distributor is tasked with saying, is this a complete VFD or not, right? If they're going to fill it, and that's part of their responsibility. So as a veterinarian, part of our responsibility is to make sure we're writing those. So the information required to be on a lawful VFD, again, this is from the FDA site. I'm going to pull out a couple things on there related to this total pounds of feed thing. Species and production, this is things that are needed to be required on there, right? So species and production class to be fed, approximate number to be fed by the expiration date. I should have highlighted indication as well, because that's important. Level of VFD drug in the feed, and the number of refills or reorders, which to my knowledge is 0 for any current products that are out there, right? You can also optionally include more description if you want location of the animals or whatever descriptor as a veterinarian you want to see, approximate age range, approximate weight, and any other information you deem appropriate. This is one of my knocks on the Global Vet Link form, is that it's more difficult on the Global Vet Link, in my opinion, to provide this optional or more detailed information than it is on a handwritten form or a triplicate form that you have to do that, right? Nowhere on here is the total pounds of feed a requirement, right? As we come through there. Now, also remember that the old VFD rule, total pounds of feed was a requirement, right? So historically, our distributors have had to see that before. Many of us in the cattle world, unless you were in the feedlot and wrote some Palmatill ones, didn't have that experience, right? That comes back from some of the pig guys to do that. As you see that. So if we go back to the distributor responsibilities, right, they only want to fill a VFD order if it contains all the required information. And then ensure that the distributed animal feed contains the drug or combination that complies with the VFD and is manufactured in label conformity with approved, condition approved, and such. They need to retain those orders for 2 years and retain orders for receipt and distribution of all that feed for the 2 years. Again, I don't see any total pounds of feed, right? As you look at that. This is, again, off the FDA site, and you'll see for record-keeping requirements for a distributor, what they're supposed to keep. If I back up and say retain records for receipt and distribution, that isn't captured on here. I don't know why that is, but they need to keep the orders, and then they're keeping it. The other thing that's on here required, if you look at the very bottom, right, manufacturing record, right? That's a GMP for feed manufacturers, including on-farm feed manufacturing, of keeping records that is applicable here, but it's not part of these orders, right? So if we're doing on-farm feed manufacturing, and they come and talk to you, they're going to want records for how you use the products back to do that. And that brings me to the other key part of this discussion with this is producer responsibilities, right? So here's the producer responsibilities that we come through that related to this total amounts of feed, right? The producer has a responsibility to only feed animals bearing or containing the drug or combination to animals based on the VFD, and to not feed to animals after the expiration of that, right? So if I put all this together, it's the producer's responsibility to feed the feed to the animals indicated on the VFD for the time indicated on the VFD, which will give you the total amount of feed, right? That's their responsibility. And so I think this is a really good example as we think about this. One of the key requirements that I think cause the most angst if we talk about it is the requirement for VCPR, right? Veterinary client-patient relationship. A key part of the VCPR is that the client agrees to follow your recommendations as a veterinarian. I think that's a key thing to keep in the back of our head as we think about this. If the producer decides to go off and right field and do whatever the hell they want to do, having a signed VCPR that states that agreement, again, I don't work for the FDA, I'm not a lawyer. I think that puts you in a much better place, right? As far as where the liability lies and the responsibilities here, right? To do that. That's my opinion. And I'll try to roll through here a little faster. From the FDA's perspective, a common thing they're still dealing with is the product I'm thinking of using in calves a medicated feed needing a VFD or a drinking water dosage. I kind of hit that at the beginning. Look at the label, right? The label will tell you which one it is to do that. Now, this seems pretty common sense, but like I said, anybody that follows the AABPL, it's a common question that comes up on AABPL. What am I doing? What is this? Look at the label. The label will tell you to do that. Can an oral dosage drinking water product needing a prescription be used extra labeling? Again, this is FDA's response. AMDUCA does apply to dosage form drinking water products now on prescription status, right? Their prescription drugs is going to apply the same as other ones. But a legal prescription cannot be written to add a drinking water product or drench labeled product to milk or milk replacer because milk or milk replacer is feed, right? So even though it's liquid, it's still feed because it's a nutritional component, a nutritionally derived component. And then they throw you this one, right? Look at the label itself for rare exceptions. I don't know what that means, but that's FDA to do that as that comes through. Can I use an FDA product extra labelly? AMDUCA does not authorize extra label use in feed for the use in the major species which is labeled for, in this case cattle. They have released guidance for extra label use in medicated feed in minor species that goes through the process from their perspective of how you would do that. And that link's there, and you can find it on the sites to do that. Inspection visits. Has anybody been inspected or had a producer be inspected? Okay, one in the back, right? So our farm was inspected within 3 weeks of the first of the year last year at the state of Minnesota. I don't know why. Maybe I was the only one that had a VFD on file at the time. I don't know. So I'm just going to give you my perspective of what we did there. This wasn't a knock at the door, show up, scary thing. They called, they made an appointment. And remember, the inspections for the first year are meant to be educational. And the inspector that visited us, they're a joint, in the state of Minnesota, they're a joint state FDA employee. She was very helpful. She brought reams of information to the farm. She didn't want to go look at the animals. She didn't want to go look at the feed source. She just wanted to look at the records. What did you have in place for records? What did you have for feed tags? And were you prepared to do this? Now, we were prepared to do that, and it wasn't a bad experience to do that. I don't know if you had a similar experience with it. I'll just leave that for the time at the end because I'm going over. But that's how it happened to us, right? To do that. So it's not a come knock on your door, show up in the dark of night and chastise you. It was a very professional arranged visit, and it was educational in my experience. The last thing, and Gerard's going to kick me off the stage here in a minute, but the duration of use, continued use issue. There are still 4 disease indications for use in cattle with products that do not have a defined duration of use. So they do not say a limited time frame to feed them. And in discussing with the FDA and other people, they are actively exploring that issue, what to do it. Some of you made this docket at the end. There was, and some of this came out through ABP, there was effort for a survey to get input to that and where that's at and what some of those things need to be. So that is yet to be seen on where that will go, but it is an issue that they are still in contention with and don't have resolved on what they're going to allow to happen with that. So you're going to see changes that happen to that in time as that comes through. And with that, I'm happy to entertain questions now or after. I'll let my moderator decide. This has just been one of those things. This is from the Beef Cattle Institute of Kansas State, but I like it. Just keep calm and let's keep going forward with this, right? And work through it, and we can come up with solutions for our producers.